Hi, guys. Welcome back to my podcast. It's called Grabbing Coffee with Arun. And as you guys know, I love talking to veterans. I love talking to just almost anybody that can give me a good story. Today, my guest is Kyra Shepherd, and she volunteers for a group called Catapult. And just to kind of start off with Kyra, welcome.
Thank you. Happy to
So,
be here.
so just to kind of start off with Kyra, let's tell the audience what Catapult is all about.
So, Team Catapult is an organization that helps people with physical disabilities access the world of endurance sports. So, what that looks like is helping people with who are visually impaired, pairing them up with sighted guides. It looks like helping people who are amputee athletes have a guide in a race or have access to, a camp we have called Welcome to Running that teaches them how to run again. It's really just trying to open the doors for people so that they can get back to being physically active and do things that maybe they didn't think that they were capable of doing again.
Yeah, because it's kind of interesting how I'm always interested in how somebody like you got involved with Catapult.
Yeah, I had seen Catapult at races. I did some half marathons here and there. I was never super serious about it. And then about 3.5 years ago, I decided to take running a little bit more seriously. And as I became a bit more confident in my own abilities, I saw a post from a friend of mine that Catapult was looking for guides for the Chevron Houston Marathon and the half marathon.
Mhm.
And so I decided, I've always wanted to do this. Why not just apply to it and see what happens? And I actually was selected to guide somebody. And through that, I came to a Team Catapult guide workshop where they kind of teach you the basics of how to use a tether, how to guide somebody, how to give visual cues. And from there, I started attending workouts, and that's really all it was. And when I came out, I loved it. I loved the community. I loved meeting all the athletes. I loved meeting all the other guides. So I've been doing it ever since.
So because for me, when I first started learning how to run with a guide, it was not that easy.
Yeah.
It was very difficult because I had to depend on the guide to kind of basically tell me where everything is, and everything is going pretty fast paced, right? So because you're running, so. But was it
Yeah.
hard? Was it hard for you when you first guided somebody, or I think you
Honestly,
guided
I
me at
was
first, right?
You were the first person I ever did was Gail, and we walked. So that
Okay,
made me feel a little bit more comfortable. And she's an athlete who likes to hold on to your wrist. So
right.
that also made me feel more comfortable because we were very close in close proximity with each other. She was holding on to me. So if anything were to happen, she had that. The second person that I ever went with was you, and you were running. And honestly, the night before I went out, I don't know if I've told you this, but the night before I went out and guided you, I was so nervous. I was more nervous than if I was doing a race the next morning because I really didn't want to mess it up or make any mistakes. But luckily, when I went with you for that first time, they paired us with another guide who had more experience. So she started with holding the tether and
Mhm.
actually being physically connected with you. And I kind of just watched. And then eventually she passed the tether over to me and we started running together. And it kind of, some of it comes naturally, some of it you just kind of learn as you go. I think doing the guide workshop beforehand was helpful because they had parts where we as sighted guides would close our eyes and let somebody guide us.
Mhm.
And that was so, honestly, it was scary for me, even though I knew at any point I could open my eyes. So I really commend you guys for doing it. Um, but it really kind of gave me an insight as to what I needed to say and things to look out for and stuff like that. And then I think Catapult does a really good job of when you start with Catapult, they don't pair you right away with people who are running fast.
Right.
They typically will pair you with someone who's walking, and then they'll, move up to you being paired with someone who's jogging, and it goes from there. And I think that's really helpful because the faster you go, I would say the more, I don't want to say nerve wracking, but there's more that can go wrong when you're running fast, right? Because you have
Yeah.
less reaction time and all of that. So kind of scaling it up, if that makes sense.
Right. Right.
Yeah.
what about like what kind of people do you think would be good guides? I mean, it doesn't necessarily have to be somebody that's doing Ironman and stuff like that, right?
No, and that's the thing that I never realized before I actually started coming out to Catapult. I think because I'd mainly seen Catapult in races, I always saw people who were running. And
Right,
I always just kind of assumed these athletes are out running marathons. And if I'm going to guide somebody, I need to be able to be out running a marathon.
right.
And honestly, I mean, there were Catapult athletes who would be passing me when I was running a half marathon. So I thought, there's no way that I can do this because I'm not in shape enough. The truth is that we have athletes who are all different levels. We have people who are running the Boston Marathon, and we have people who are walking 5Ks. And
Mm,
we need guides for all of those different people. And so I think I wish I had known early that that's really, you don't have to be an incredible endurance athlete yourself in order to come out and guide. I think the most important thing is that just that you're a kind person, that you're willing to learn,
hmm.
that want to go out and have conversations with people and spend time with people. And I think at the beginning, at least, being over communicative, explaining what's going on as you're running, because this person who you're running with doesn't have access to seeing any of it. So
Right.
erring on the side of giving a little bit more information. And then as you get to know people, some people, we run around Memorial Park a lot. Some people know every inch of that path. And so they don't need to be told all of those things. They'd rather have a conversation, and you start to get to know the athletes. But I think honestly, just coming out with an open mind and a kind heart is really what you need.
Yeah, when I first started running, Kara, it's like, I'm not, I mean, like you guys can see where you're stepping on the ground, right?
Yeah.
Well, I can't see where I'm stepping on the ground. I'm trusting that the ground is not going to move, right?
Yep. Yep.
So that was hard. That it took me a while to kind of grasp that, and it's like, okay, I'll be okay if I just put my foot down. And
Yeah, yeah. And I
so,
think also, like, thinking about things like weather, if it's rained, then the ground
right.
feels different and you have to be more careful with your foot and just stuff like that. Yeah.
Because the first time I went, I wore jeans, and I tell you, I'll never forget it because I think Bruce kind of made fun of me. It's like, dude, you got to get some running clothes.
It's a little more
So,
comfortable if you're not in jeans. That's true.
yeah, and it took me, I don't remember how long it took me to run that whole loop without stopping. It took me a
Yeah.
while. It took me a few weeks, but I just kept at it. It's like a mile at
Yeah.
a time kind of thing, right?
Yeah. Yeah. But you got there and then you ran half marathon. So
So, what would be some of the challenges to guiding a disabled person, you think?
I mean, what would I say are the challenges? It depends really. If you're just coming out for a workout with Catapult, I don't think there's that many challenges. I think it's, if you're feeling uncomfortable, come out and shadow an existing guide and
Hmm.
listen to what they're saying and watch what they're saying. Um, it's, I think for myself, at least when I started, I overthought it a lot, and it
Yeah.
doesn't really need to be like that. I think the challenge is just you're always trying to look ahead of what's about to happen. When you run by yourself, I think you can zone out a little bit because, your mind naturally, when you're able to see something, you
Hmm.
avoid anything that you need to avoid, right? There's no extra step there. So if there's, a route in front of me or there's a dip in the path, I don't have to think about that. It's just my eyes naturally tell me to go to the side, right? But when
Hmm.
you're running as a guide, you have to be looking at the path and thinking, okay, there's something right here that's going to get in the way. I need to tell them to come over to the left to avoid it. You need to be looking at all the other runners and thinking about what they're going to do. And you have to kind of add in a few extra seconds because you have to actually verbally tell your athlete that and physically kind of guide them away. We're usually running connected with a tether, which
Hmm.
we hold and the athlete holds. And so you can give sort of a physical cue by putting a little pressure on it and sort of pulling it to the side. But it's also good to pair that with a verbal cue and explain to them what they need to be doing. So I think it's just all about really being aware of your surroundings, really staying in the moment and paying attention
Right.
to what's going on around you. And also kind of anticipating what other runners might do. I mean, there's been times that I'm running around the path at Memorial Park and somebody is in front of us and they just decide to stop out of nowhere. And then you have to really quickly slow your athlete down. So just always being hyper aware
Hmm.
of what's going on.
What about like race mornings? Is it pretty stressful for the guys, you think? Or
I think it depends on the race, you know?
hmm.
I would say with a race, you have a benefit of you're mainly on roads. And so the obstacles under your feet typically aren't quite as much because you're on a flat road, right? But there's also potentially like at Chevron, there's a lot of people the first few miles.
Right.
So sometimes, I mean, when I did the half marathon as a guide a year and a half ago, we couldn't really get into the pace. Weber, the athlete I was running with, wanted to go at for a couple miles because we just couldn't get around all the people. So I think there's a different challenge with that. Once it opens up and people have kind of found their space, it's not as bad. But I would say that that is definitely stress inducing. There's just more people. And so you're having to pay attention to a lot more people around you. And people are kind of in their own worlds. They usually have headphones on. So if you're saying, you know, we're coming around you, nobody hears you.
Right.
So I think that's something that makes it pretty different. I also guided the New York City Marathon last year, and that
Mhm.
one, there were just so many people the entire time. So
Mhm.
it's more of a high stress environment than just a workout. So I would say, I wouldn't say don't jump in and guide a race, but I would say do some, definitely come to workouts beforehand and get more comfortable.
Yeah, because a lot of times, my guys were shorter than me, so they wouldn't look out for the limbs and the trees and all that. That
Yes.
was a little bit of a problem for me. But later, I realized that I let them know, hey, let me know if there's a limb there or something.
Yeah, yeah. It's you have to kind of put yourself in the other person's shoes. That's totally true.
Yeah. So I'm trying to see what else. Guess we pretty much kind of. So if somebody's interested, where could they go to sign up for Team Catapult? And let's talk about when we meet on Saturday morning and Wednesday evening, right?
Yeah, yeah. So if you're interested, you can just teamcatapult.org. You can go right there and it has all of our stuff. We're also on Halo. So if you happen to use the Halo app, that's where we list all of our weekly workouts and you can go on there and RSVP for a workout. And within that, you can say, hey, I'm new. And our workout leader will pair you with another guide so that you're learning the ropes. We also have a guide workshop coming up in October. And so that's a really good thing to come out to before you start guiding. You don't have to. If you're wanting to start now, you are more than welcome to come out. But if you want a little more experience first, those guide workshops are really helpful. We meet on Wednesdays at 7 p.m. at Memorial Park at the Tennis Center, and we
Hmm.
meet on Saturday mornings at 7 a.m. at the same spot, the Tennis Center. So you can also just show up and then meet everybody and go from there. But the best way is really just going to teamcatapult.org. And then from there, you can find our Halo group and sign up for the workouts.
How do you spell Halo, Kara? Is it Heyll?
It's, yeah, it's Heylo.
Lo, okay, there's only one L. Okay.
Yeah, yeah. And if you're confused on that, just go teamcatapult.org and you can connect directly from there. Makes it super easy.
Okay, this was pretty easy. If you guys want to reach me, my email is arun, ARUN dot GAALLA at gmail.com. Okay, Kara, thank you for volunteering and thank you for doing this podcast with me. You
Of
have a good
course.
day.
Thank you so much. You
Okay,
too.
bye bye.
Bye.
Bye bye.